The night sky hung heavy above the city as Alexander Ward stood by his office window, watching the rain blur the skyline. The glass reflected a man who looked complete, tailored suit, polished shoes, calm control, but inside something darker pulsed. He had everything people dreamed of, a fortune built from nothing, a company that bowed to his command, a name that echoed through business circles. Yet when love knocked on his door, he had turned it away with cold precision. 3 years ago, he told her she was a mistake. The words had tasted sharp, but he spoke them anyway, believing that emotions were for the weak. Love made people lose focus, and he refused to be one of them. That night, as he poured himself another glass of whiskey, he caught his reflection and for a second saw the ghost of her eyes staring back at him. Warm, forgiving, human. He blinked it away, but the thought lingered. Somewhere deep down, he wondered if he had gone too far. Yet his pride whispered that regret was for failures, not for men who conquered the world. Still, beneath the surface, something inside him began to shift, a quiet unease, a faint echo of the words he once used to destroy a heart that had only wanted to love him. Across the quiet countryside, far from the towers that once cast their shadows over her dreams, Emily Carter watched the morning sun spill across her small flower shop. It had been 3 years since that night. 3 long years since Alexander Ward's cold words shattered everything she believed in. "You were a mistake." Those words used to echo inside her until she taught herself to silence them with purpose. Her hands, once trembling from heartbreak, now built beauty every day, arranging petals and colors that spoke of new beginnings. The shop smelled of hope, fresh roses, lavender, and gentle rain. Yet even in the stillness, his memory clung to her, like the faint scent of perfume that refuses to fade. Some nights, she still saw him in dreams, standing tall, distant, unbreakable. But morning always came to remind her that she had survived him. She had built a new life, one that didn't depend on anyone's approval. But when she glanced at the photo frame tucked behind the counter, a small picture of a little girl with the same blue eyes as his, her heart would tighten. Love, she realized, hadn't left her. It had simply taken a different form, smaller, softer, but infinitely stronger. She smiled gently and whispered, "You're not a mistake, my little one. You're my miracle." Alexander's world had grown louder, richer, and emptier all at once. Awards, investments, and flashing cameras surrounded him, yet none of it silenced the strange hollowness that had begun to echo through his chest. Every smile felt practiced, every handshake mechanical. At night, when the noise faded and the city dimmed, he often found himself staring at the old piano in his penthouse. A gift once sent by Emily, back when she believed music could soften him. He had never touched it, but lately, the silence of those untouched keys felt like judgment. Sometimes, he'd imagine what it would sound like if she played again, the way her laughter once filled his home like sunlight. He would close his eyes, and for a fleeting second, he could almost feel warmth. Then the illusion broke, leaving him colder than before. Rumors whispered that the great Alexander Ward had everything. The truth was, he had built walls so high that not even peace could climb them. One evening at a charity gala, his gaze drifted toward a painting titled "The Bloom After Winter." A woman and child stood under a tree in full bloom. Something in that painting pierced through him. The child's smile, pure and innocent, struck him like recognition. He didn't know why, but his pulse quickened. He turned away, unaware that fate had just begun to trace a circle back to where his story once broke. The morning his car broke down near the coastal town, Alexander felt it was just another inconvenience money could fix. But destiny had different plans. Frustrated, he stepped out, his polished shoes splashing into puddles as the sea breeze tangled his hair. Across the street, he noticed a small flower shop, the kind of place that shouldn't have mattered to a man like him. Yet something about it drew him in. The bell above the door chimed softly when he entered, filling the air with the scent of lilies and roses. He looked around, scanning the colors, when his gaze froze on a woman arranging daisies by the window. Her movements were calm, graceful, as if time bent quietly around her. He didn't recognize her at first. 3 years had changed her, stronger, gentler, radiant in a way pain could not destroy. Emily turned slowly, meeting his eyes for the first time since that night. Her heart skipped, but her face remained calm. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice steady, distant, polite. The tone cut deeper than any anger could. For a moment he couldn't breathe. Memories slammed into him, the rain, her tears, his cruel words. He opened his mouth, but no sound came. Then a small voice broke the tension. "Mom, look! He dropped his keys!" A little girl ran up holding his silver keychain, her blue eyes bright with innocence, the same shade as his. The room spun. The truth hit him harder than any storm ever could. Time seemed to stop as Alexander stared at the little girl who held his keys with tiny fingers. Those eyes, clear, blue, and impossibly familiar, pulled him back through every wall he had built around himself. His breath caught. He wanted to ask, but his voice trembled before the words could form. Emily gently took the child's hand, her calm composure masking the storm beneath her skin. "Say thank you, Lily," she said softly. The little girl smiled and handed him the keys. "You're welcome, sir." That word, sir, felt like a blade twisting inside his chest. He wanted to smile back, to speak, to ask who she was, but his throat tightened with fear of what he might hear. Later that night, he sat in his car outside the flower shop long after it closed, watching the faint light flicker behind the curtains. He saw Emily reading a bedtime story to Lily, her laughter floating through the window, gentle and full of life. For the first time in years, Alexander felt something break inside him. He realized success hadn't made him powerful. It had made him hollow. He had traded love for control, and in doing so, he had lost everything real. As the moon rose higher, he whispered to himself, "She wasn't a mistake. I was." The words, once his weapon, now became his punishment. But redemption, he knew, wouldn't come easy. It had to be earned, one truth, one apology, one act of courage at a time. The next morning, Alexander returned to the flower shop, his heart pounding with a fear he had never felt even in billion-dollar boardrooms. Through the glass, he saw Emily arranging sunflowers, their bright petals glowing in the light. When she looked up and saw him, her expression didn't change. No anger, no warmth, just calm distance. He stepped inside, his voice quiet. "Emily." "Please don't send me away." She paused, her fingers tightening around the ribbon she was tying. "Why are you here, Alexander?" "You made it clear once that love didn't belong in your world." His throat tightened. "I was wrong," he said simply. "I spent years proving I didn't need love, only to find that everything I built means nothing without it. Without you. Without her." Her eyes flickered with pain at his words, but she stayed silent. Then Lily ran in from the back room, holding a flower crown she had made. "Mom, look. It's for you." She placed it on Emily's head, then turned to Alexander and giggled. "You can have one too, mister." He knelt down slowly, tears blurring his sight. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice trembling. Emily's walls cracked for the first time in years. The man who once crushed her heart now knelt before her child, not as a CEO, but as a man who had finally learned what love truly was. Outside, the sea wind carried the scent of roses and forgiveness. Sometimes life brings you back not to fix the past, but to show you how deeply you've changed.